On September 29, 2021, in Houston, Texas, 17-year-old Benjamin Elliott called 911 and calmly told dispatchers he had stabbed his twin sister, Megan. It's 4:41 a.m. in Houston, Texas. A quiet house, parents asleep. Upstairs, 17-year-old Benjamin Elliott sits on the edge of his bed. Something has gone panic, and then dialing 911. No rage, no malice, just confusion. A young mind trying to make sense of a nightmare.
Life next to his bed at night.
Experts like Dr. Gerald Simmons, neurologist, sleep specialist, initially doubted the story. Could sleepwalking truly account for a stabbing of this magnitude? During a childhood sleepover, friends even woke to find him asleep on the couch eating a donut, confused when he realized what he was doing.
A sleepover with childhood friends the night this photo was taken, when Benjamin was found asleep on a couch eating a donut. When they woke him, he seemed surprised and confused.
Sleep specialist Dr. Gerald Simmons began examining whether a parasomnia episode could explain what happened that morning.
Brainwave activity here. So we did the sleep study. I saw that he had obstructive sleep apnea.
Sleeping, struggling a bit to get breath,
right, yes.
and that could be the trigger.
Yes.
Sleep studies followed, and while Benjamin showed no violent behavior in the lab, the tests revealed he could slip unusually fast into deep non-REM sleep, the stage most often linked to sleepwalking episodes.
From the time we turned off the lights until he was in slow-wave sleep.
Benjamin's phone went silent at 4:17 a.m. It lights up 24 minutes later. 911 call placed. Could those silent minutes conceal an unconscious act of violence? Simmons says yes.
Phone act. Do you believe Ben killed his sister without even realizing he was doing it in his sleep?
Yes.
The findings came as a surprise to Benjamin's parents.
Ben definitely killed his sister. He did it. There's no question. He's the one that had the knife and he stabbed her. But I believe it was part of a parasomnia.
It's scary as hell.
Yeah.
If that can happen to us, then that could happen to anybody with a sleep problem.
But prosecution expert says no, the jury would have to decide.
We just didn't think that what we saw was sleepwalking.
The autopsy revealed the severity of Megan's injuries, 2 stab wounds, including one that severed her carotid artery, leaving prosecutors to argue the attack was deliberate rather than reflexive.
One wound was 4 inches deep and severed her carotid artery and jugular vein.
Is there no motive because he was sleepwalking, or is there no motive just because no one's willing to come forward and tell us?
The next thing I remember is the feeling of stabbing something.
Prosecutors pressed their case further. Every action, unsheathing the knife, covering Megan's face with a pillow, waiting to call 911, they argued was deliberate, conscious, calculated. They insisted a sleepwalker couldn't act with such sequence, and before trial, prosecutors offered a 30-year plea deal. But Benjamin refused, maintaining that he hadn't acted knowingly and couldn't have controlled what happened.
He turned it down.
The tragedy is now the family lost their daughter, but they're now losing their son. He's on trial for his life.
Still grieving Megan's loss, the Elliots now face the possibility of losing Benjamin as well. Now 21, Benjamin continues to maintain he never intended to harm his sister and believes he could not have controlled what happened that night.
You don't?
No. No, I don't think this is my fault at all. I used to blame myself for it because it's like, I was the one holding the knife, right? But, I've come to realize that I'm not. I couldn't have done anything any different than what I had done.
He says he still grieves the loss of his twin,